All right, so like I said, I'm gonna show you guys how to draw these wormies. And it's super simple, and it's really just like a step-by-step kind of deal. As long as you follow the steps, it's easy. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is about halfway through our paper, we're gonna draw a line that is somewhat wavy, but not crazy wavy. Okay, just a couple ups and downs, sort of like that. Okay, do that. And then once you've done that, you're gonna divide this line into 8 to 10 different little sections, but you want them all to be different sizes. Okay, so as you're dividing these, just with little marks, you're going to make some marks that are really far apart. Okay, you're going to make some that are pretty close together. You're going to make some that are sort of in between, and you just want them all to be pretty random. Okay, you don't want them to look like they were measured out or super even or anything like that. Okay, so I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 marks. You really don't want more than 10, 12, and you don't want less than probably 8, or else you just end up with some big, wide ones that kind of fill up the space and are a little bit difficult to shade. Okay? All right, the next step, now that you have these sort of split up into different sizes, kind of random sizes, is to draw wavy vertical lines going through those. So what we're going to do here is we're going to be creating the outlines for each little individual worm. Okay, so this part's a little bit tricky. I like to start in the middle instead of starting on the sides. And you want these lines to all be a little bit different too. And you don't want them to be too close together or too far away and all the same. Okay, so that'll make sense in a second. So I'm going to start at the edge of my paper here. I'm going to make a wavy line that goes through my mark like that. Okay, so my next one, I don't just want to draw the same line. I want it to look different. So this one, maybe I'm going to start here, and it's going to go way out to that point, maybe get closer, and then go like that. Okay, so I want them all to be different. Okay, this one, maybe I'm going to go really skinny and then make it really wide at the top. Okay, I'm trying to make them all just a little bit different so that it'll be more interesting in the end. Okay, if they're all the same, it's not as interesting to look at. This one I'm going to start on the side. Sort of like that. It's not interesting to look at, and it doesn't look as natural. Okay, if they all kind of are measured out and equal, it looks a little more artificial. Okay, so go ahead and do that. If you don't hit your marks exactly, don't worry about it. You can be off a little tiny bit. What you don't want to do is have parts that are just too close together, though. Okay, so this next step is going to be the important part that really makes these go from just this flat, two-dimensional looking piece of paper with flat surface to it to more of a three-dimensional look, okay? So we're going to be creating what are called cross-contour lines, and these lines give, like I said, a little bit of a three-dimensional look. So I'm going to be focusing on this worm right here. So I've created two outlines, right? So this is the right side of the worm. This is the left side of the worm. Okay, so this is going to be the shape of the worm in here. So what I want to do is make this not just look like a flat looking worm. I want it to give it some roundness. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create sort of some segments on here that are all made up of curved lines and really kind of smooth curve. Okay, if you're not really good at making a curve that looks not bumpy, you might need to do a little practice. But what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this center line that we made first. We're going to focus on just what's above that for right now. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at this line and these two lines. Okay, and I'm going to start in this corner, and I'm going to end my line in this corner. So I'm always paying attention to where these lines intersect each other. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and just watch me for a few because I have some tips at the end I'll talk to you about. I'm going to start in this corner, and I'm just going to create a nice, even, smooth curve. Okay, so now that I've drawn that one, my corners bump up a little bit each time. So now I'm going to start on top of this new line that I just made. So I'm paying attention now to this line and this line and this line, and I'm starting in this corner. I'm going to end in this corner. So I'm going to make a curve that starts in the corner and ends in the corner. Okay, so now I'm going to build on top of this mark that I just made. So I'm looking at this line and this line and this line. I'm starting in the corner. Smooth, even curve. ending in the corner. Okay, and notice I'm trying not to leave a gap. I have this line over here that I'm right up against. I'm trying not to leave a gap between those two lines. Okay, so now you can see that this corner is way above where I started down here, right? So I'm moving up as I go. So I'm starting in the corner, going up, curving around, ending in a corner. Corner to corner each time. And I'm making these shapes that sort of look like sideways crescent moons. Okay, notice they have pointed ends on them. Just sort of as a demonstration, I'll erase this in a minute, but a lot of people start off good and then they start doing this. Okay, and this line doesn't touch this line at all. Okay, this line didn't start in this corner or end in this corner or vice versa. Okay, these lines don't touch. Okay, they have to build on top of each other. The line that you're drawing has to start and stop on the line you just drew. Okay, so, and as you get into bigger sections here, as this worm gets up higher, my lines will get a little bit spaced out. Okay, so right now I'm trying to make these all pretty consistently the same distance apart, but as I get into this wider section up here, I'm going to start spreading them out a little bit more, and it's going to make it look like that worm. Because these are cross contour lines, the lines themselves give this worm its shape, its form, its three-dimensional look. When I get into these wider areas, I want to make each section look like it's a little bit further apart because that section's bigger, right? I want this worm to look like it has a big kind of fat spot in it. These almost look like they're swollen, right? So they're further apart. When I get to the edge of the paper, I'm going to take my line and I'm just going to go off the edge like this. So it looks like it's just going on forever. Okay, and I'm going to do all of these up here. And then I'm going to turn my paper around 180 degrees, and I'm going to work on this side and work towards this edge of the paper. Okay, so the main thing to focus on when you're doing this step is you have to have these pointy ends to each section. Each new line has to be starting and stopping on the line you just drew, so they build on top of each other. And you don't want these big flat side segments. Okay, so I'll let you guys go. Keep working. I'm going to continue filling in this one side, and we'll look up and stop in a second. I'll come around and help you guys individually. Once you have your final draft all drawn in, you're going to get a marker and you're going to go over all the lines. Okay, so obviously that is not for everybody right now. If you haven't finished your rough draft, you need to do that first. And then once you show that to me, you'll come get a final draft piece of paper. It's on the shelf right down in front of me on the shelf behind my computer. And you will start on your final draft. You'll draw lightly because you're going to go over it with marker anyways. Okay, so make sure that you're drawing light. So once you have your final draft looking like this, you will come get a marker and you will go over every single line that you drew in pencil. Okay, ready? Go. All the marker done, you are going to take your eraser and you're going to go back and you're going to erase any of the pencil lines that you may have missed, just to clean it up before you move on to colored pencil. Okay, and then tomorrow I'll give you a demonstration on how to do the colored pencil after that. Okay? Okay, so once you have your wormies all drawn in on your final draft paper, and you have gone over with marker all your lines and gone back with your eraser and cleaned up any extra pencil lines you may have, you're going to start thinking about color. Okay, so you're going to choose 4 or more colors, and you're going to create a pattern that goes, I mean, if we're going to look at an example of one that's already filled in, you're going to make a pattern. Each worm is going to have an every other color pattern. Okay, if you want to do 3 colors, you can do like red, blue, yellow, red, blue, yellow, red, blue, yellow, and do a pattern that way. But you need to have at least 2 colors per worm. Okay, so when you do this, you can start anywhere on any worm. You can start in the middle. You can start at the edge of the paper. It doesn't matter to me as long as you are shading each section and you're blending it from dark to light. Okay, so if I'm going to do, let's see, where am I? If I'm going to do this shape right here, this little section of this one worm, please stop tapping. I'm going to be pressing very hard in the corner. And if you were with me in 6th grade and you did the hidden image, this should be pretty reminiscent of that. And I'm getting lighter and lighter and lighter. So I'm pressing lighter on the pencil, just like we shaded on our letters last week. And we're blending it out to white in the middle. Okay? And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And I'm working towards the middle, and I'm getting lighter and lighter until it blends out to that white spot in the middle. Okay? The last thing I like to do is if I'm on the upside from this middle line that I originally drew, I just darken the bottom line a little bit. Kind of gives it just a little bit more of a 3D look. Okay? So now I'm going to take my other color and do the same thing. So I'm going to press, oops, broken pencils. Press really hard. Blend towards lighter. Your lighter colors are going to get lighter faster, obviously, because they're not as dark. Purple, you're going to have to press very, very, very light to get a light pressure on there to get a light color because it's such a dark color. And you're going to keep going. Every other one or every whatever pattern you're deciding, you're going to keep filling that in. And it goes, it's a little bit slow, but it goes pretty quick. You can probably get a whole worm and a half, maybe 2 worms done in a class period. So we should only need 5 or 6 class periods to get this all filled in. And I know some of you aren't ready for it right off the bat right now, but you're just going darker in the corners, blending lighter towards the middle. Okay, the last step you're going to do, I like to do it as I'm going. You're going to take black, and just in the very corners here, you're just going to make a nice blend from black into the dark part of the color. So you're not doing a ton of black. You're just trying to make that color that you already had there a little bit darker. Okay? If you have any gaps in between your worms, like I have a little bit of a gap over here, you can just fill that in with your black. Okay? Whenever you run into those areas. So when you are done, should look, again, something like that, which makes it look pretty 3-dimensional. Here's a student, here I'll zoom out a little, student done worms. They look really 3-dimensional when you have them nice and shaded like that. There's a good one.
I like these because they have the worms that go underneath the other ones.
Oh yeah, so that's something you can do too if you wanted your lines to kind of sort of like pinches off this other one. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, that's something you can do too. Okay, so those are all student done projects. Okay, so again, you just really want to blend from dark in the corners to light in the middle. Kind of makes them look like they're popping up off the paper, gives them sort of a 3-dimensional look. And once you're all done, they'll look like worms. Okay, sort of like that. All right.